Don't eat that cake! The terrified voice of a young boy echoed across the glittering ballroom, just as millionaire Ethan Carter lifted the first slice toward his mouth. Conversation stopped. 100 guests turned in disbelief. Security rushed toward the ragged 12-year-old standing near the entrance, his worn sneakers and patched jacket making him look painfully out of place among the city's wealthiest people. "Sir," the boy shouted again, struggling against the guards. "Someone put something in your cake." "I saw them do it." A nervous laugh spread through parts of the crowd, but it vanished when Ethan noticed something strange. Across the room, his business partner's smile disappeared for just a split second before he quickly looked away. The knife slipped from Ethan's hand. "Wait," he said firmly, raising his voice. "Let the boy speak." The ballroom fell into complete silence. The frightened boy looked Ethan straight in the eyes and whispered, "If I'm wrong, you can throw me out. But if I'm right, you'll still be alive 1 hour from now." Before we uncover what happened next, please like this video, subscribe to Kindness Corner Stories, and share it with someone who believes kindness and courage can save lives. Also, tell us in the comments, which city and country are you watching from? The guards loosened their grip but didn't let go. The boy stood frozen, his chest rising and falling as he fought to catch his breath. Every guest watched him as if he were either a hero or a liar. Ethan Carter stepped away from the birthday cake. "Bring him here," he ordered. One of the guards hesitated. "Sir, he could be dangerous." "If he wanted to hurt me," Ethan replied, "he wouldn't have warned me." The room grew silent as the boy was escorted forward. His hands trembled, but he never took his eyes off the untouched cake. "What's your name?" Ethan asked. "Noah. How old are you?" 12. "And why were you outside my private event?" Noah lowered his head. "I collect empty bottles after parties. Sometimes the hotels let me take them for recycling." A few guests exchanged uncomfortable glances. While they celebrated with crystal glasses and gourmet food, this boy survived by gathering what everyone else threw away. Ethan's expression softened. "What exactly did you see?" Noah swallowed hard. "I was behind the kitchen loading door about 20 minutes ago. I heard 2 people arguing. One man said, 'Once he eats the first slice, everything will be ours.'" A murmur spread across the ballroom. "I looked through the small window," Noah continued. "A man wearing black gloves opened a tiny bottle and poured something into the cream on the top of the cake. Then another man told him to hurry because the guests would be arriving. The event manager immediately stepped forward. "Sir, this is impossible. The cake has been under constant supervision." Noah quickly shook his head. "No, it wasn't. They wheeled it into the storage room for a few minutes before bringing it back." Ethan slowly turned toward the head chef. "Is that true?" The chef's face went pale. We did move it briefly because of a problem with the lights." The explanation sounded reasonable, yet something didn't feel right. Before Ethan could respond, his longtime business partner, Richard Hale, laughed nervously. "This is getting ridiculous," Richard said. "You're going to trust the story of a homeless kid over your own staff?" The room became quiet again. Noah looked down at the floor. "I'm not asking anyone to believe me," he said softly. "I'm just asking you not to eat that cake until someone checks it." His voice wasn't desperate anymore. It was honest. Ethan stared at the untouched birthday cake, then at the frightened boy who had nothing to gain by speaking up and everything to lose. With one calm sentence, he changed the course of the evening. "Nobody touches that cake until it's tested." The smiles around the ballroom faded instantly, especially Richard's. Within minutes, the ballroom transformed from a celebration into an active investigation. Security sealed off the dessert table while a nearby medical team collected samples from the cake. The guests whispered anxiously, wondering whether they were witnessing an overreaction or the beginning of something far more sinister. Richard checked his watch for what seemed like the 10th time. "Ethan," he said with forced patience, "the laboratory won't get here for hours. Your guests are waiting. You're letting a child ruin your birthday over a wild accusation." Ethan didn't answer. Instead, he walked over to Noah, who stood quietly in a corner, avoiding everyone's eyes. "You could have run away after warning me," Ethan said. "Why did you stay?" Noah shrugged. "Because if something happened to you, I'd always wonder if I should have said more. The simple answer struck Ethan harder than he expected. Just then, one of the security officers approached. "Sir," he whispered, "we reviewed the kitchen cameras, and there's a problem." The officer handed Ethan a tablet. The footage showed the cake leaving the kitchen exactly as the chef had described. But for 58 seconds, the cameras outside the storage room mysteriously went black. When the video returned, the cake was being wheeled back into the ballroom. Richard leaned over Ethan's shoulder. Probably a technical glitch. Before Ethan could respond, the security officer shook his head. "We checked the system logs. The cameras weren't broken. They were manually disabled." A wave of silence swept across the room. Then another officer hurried inside, carrying a small evidence bag. "Sir, we found this behind the storage room." Inside the clear plastic bag was a single black latex glove. Noah's eyes widened immediately. "That's the glove," he exclaimed. "The man I saw was wearing gloves exactly like that." The head chef stared at the evidence in disbelief. "I've never seen that before." But Richard suddenly became unusually defensive. "This proves nothing," he snapped. "Anyone could have dropped a glove." Ethan slowly turned toward his friend. "For someone who says there's no danger," he said quietly. "You seem awfully interested in ending this investigation." Richard forced a smile, but his confidence had begun to crack. Then Ethan's phone rang. It was the toxicology laboratory. He answered on speaker. The room held its breath. "Mr. Carter." The scientist said gravely, "Our preliminary test is complete. Ethan's..." Heart pounded. "The cream from the top of the cake contains a fast-acting toxic substance." Gasps echoed throughout the ballroom. The birthday cake that everyone had, admired just an hour earlier, had become a murder weapon, and only one person had stopped Ethan from taking the very first bite. The ballroom erupted into panic. Some guests rushed toward the exits, while others stood frozen in disbelief. Police officers arrived within minutes, securing the building as detectives began questioning everyone who had entered the kitchen that evening. Ethan, however, never took his eyes off Richard. For nearly 15 years, they had built businesses together, celebrated victories together, and trusted each other with decisions worth millions of dollars. Now that trust was hanging by a thread. A detective approached Ethan quietly. "Mr. Carter, we searched the storage room. What did you find?" "A hidden cell phone." The detective placed it on the table. It wasn't registered to any employee, but someone forgot to erase the messages within minutes. The phone was unlocked. The room fell silent as the detective read aloud. "The cameras will be off for exactly 1 minute. Make sure he eats the first slice. Once Carter is gone, the company becomes ours." Every message pointed to a carefully planned conspiracy. Then came the final text. "Payment will be released after the party." R.H. Richards' face turned completely white. "It's not what it looks like," he stammered. But before he could say another word, the detective produced financial records recovered from the phone. They showed secret transfers to an offshore account created just weeks earlier. Richard lowered his head. "I was drowning in debt," he whispered. I thought nobody would ever know." Ethan stared at the man he had once called a brother. "You didn't just betray my business," he said, his voice shaking with disappointment. "You tried to steal someone's future by taking a life." Richard had no answer. As officers placed him under arrest, Ethan slowly walked across the ballroom toward Noah. The boy looked frightened. "I'm sorry your birthday was ruined," Noah said softly. Ethan's eyes filled with emotion. "My birthday wasn't ruined," he replied. "It was saved." He knelt to Noah's level. "Why were you willing to risk everything for a stranger?" Noah smiled faintly. "My mom always told me that doing the right thing doesn't become less important just because no one believes you." For a moment, Ethan couldn't speak. The richest man in the room had just received the greatest lesson from the poorest person there. That evening, Ethan learned that courage doesn't wear an expensive suit, and honesty isn't measured by the size of a bank account. Sometimes, it comes from a hungry 12-year-old boy who simply refuses to look away when someone's life is in danger. A few months later, Noah's life looked completely different. Ethan made sure he returned to school, provided a safe home for him and his mother, and created a scholarship fund for children who showed extraordinary honesty and courage in the face of hardship. Noah never asked for a reward. He only wanted to know that he had done the right thing. At the scholarship's opening ceremony, Ethan shared a lesson he would never forget. "Success may earn you respect," he said, "but integrity is what truly saves lives." Everyone in the audience stood and applauded, not for a millionaire, but for a young boy whose courage changed countless lives. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who believes kindness still matters, and subscribe to Kindness Corner Stories for more emotional stories that inspire hope and compassion. We'd also love to hear from you, so tell us in the comments which city and country you're watching from, because one brave warning from an honest heart can change a lifetime forever.